tremendous looking trophy.
One and one PlayStation podcast in the Oceanias. My name's Tom Blight. Joining me, as always, Ashley Holdby.
やーディラン、プラチナエクスプロージョンでゴースト・オブ・ツシマについて語るのが楽しみです。
Oh my god. Oh my god. I feel like only you're allowed to do that, right? For audio listeners, I mean, do you want to...
わかりますか？リップシンクがゴースト・オブ・ツシマなので悪いです。
What, do you want to, I mean, what do you...
私たちのすべてのオーディオリスナーに申し訳ありません。これは視覚的なビットです。
Do you want to... This is a hot mess already. Jesus H.
Do you get
Christ.
it?
No.
Because the lip sync in Ghost of Tsushima is bad.
Yeah. Do you want to translate or?
Said, excited to be here on Platinum Explosion to talk about Ghost of Tsushima. Do you get the bit? Because the audio is bad. The lip sync is bad in Ghost of Tsushima. And then apologies to all our audio listeners. It's more of a visual gag.
Again, I feel like only I could not get away with that joke. I feel like this is, yeah. There's no way. Okay, I mean, yeah, audio listeners.
I'm sure the dub on the Mongols is bad as well. So.
Yeah, that's not what I'm saying. There's still
that's true. There's still a bit of a divide. So
there's still, I mean, Mongols and what's the difference between what do you call I guess do we just the Japanese? Is that what like Jin's people are? It's just Japanese. Yeah, okay.
Japanese.
So it's like I get Mongols, Japanese, Mongolians, Japanese, still
from the same continent. Yeah.
Asia, like, you know, like, the capital A, and young. I'm not young, but middle-aged. I'm not middle-aged. Whatever age. Dylan, white guy Dylan from the A of Australia, not the A of Asia, could not do that visual gag. Is what I'm saying.
It was an alright visual gag. Should have practiced a bit more. Couple extra rehearsals.
I did it in I did it a lot in high school until I actually offended a capital A Asian. And I did not know why, but looking back I do know why. But I did it because I watched a lot of the first martial arts movies I watched on VHS. They were all dubbed, and they didn't have like obviously the VHS. You didn't have the option to like suddenly just switch on, you know, subtitles or whatever. So, and that's how they all were. It was there. It didn't make any fucking sense, and I didn't think anything about it.
Maybe that's what they're going for.
Maybe that's what they're going for. Ghost of Tsushima's bad.
No, because it would work the other way.
They're trying to be authentic to the 60s Hollywood.
No. It would be the other way around where the English dialogue is off.
Yeah, that's true, actually. Yeah. Anyway, welcome to today's Platinum Explosion. Yeah, we're going to talk about it a little bit. We're going to talk about Ghost of Tsushima some more in a minute. After that, I mean, that's a pure example of sometimes the spanner in the works, and I just can't recuperate. I can't get it. I can't get the trains back on track fast enough. Anyway, in the trophy cabinet this week, a bronze trophy for Kurosawa. No, wait, I forgot to fix that one. It's fine. Fuck it. This stage, it's Kurosawa. Fuck it. A silver trophy for Spider-Man Details, gold trophy for Bugsnax, and a hit of platinum for Ghost of Tsushima. So Ghost of Tsushima, it's out. Ash has played a lot more than me, but we're going to give our first impressions, and then
my second impressions.
Look, there's just
okay, couch. Me and Kieran do have a big discussion, but let's get into it here.
But let's be fair. It was mostly Kieran.
Yeah, because he talks a lot.
And you haven't played as much, so you've played more since then, so it's fine.
Yes.
But also, as long as this show exists, I just kind of pretend it has its own continuity. So on this show's continuity, it is
First
your
impression.
first impressions.
Yeah, first impressions. Never talked about it anywhere else.
Never talked about it on this show before. You know.
Yeah.
Just saying that there's. There's the Planet Explosion listeners. There's the Arcade Couch listeners. There's the Explosion Network listeners. And, you know, don't like to pretend they're all in the same bubble. Anyway, Ghost of Tsushima, what do you think? What are your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, so I'm starting the second act of the game, so they're pretty much set into 3 different zones. Yeah, I'm having a good time. Obviously, it's very much an open world game. If you played any type of open world game, it's like an Assassin's Creed or any Ubisoft game, really. It kind of feels like that. The combat is really... I'm liking the combat. I can understand some people being a bit iffy about it because it's... I feel like nothing about this game is innovative or original. It's like it's just been presented the best way possible, taking bits and pieces from everything else. So, yeah, the combat's fun. I'm enjoying the story so far. There's a nice cast of characters too, surrounding the main character Jin, he's fine. He's a video game protagonist. Yeah, I'm enjoying it. I cleared out the first part of Tsushima. I liberated it, cleared the entire map, so I'm on to the second bit. I'm getting toward... I felt a little bit of wearing out, you know, starting to burn out a little bit. But then I took a break and came back. And I feel like the way the mission structure is, it's like a bunch of smaller vignettes. So it's easy just to go, I've got I'll play 1 or 2, I'll take a break. Play another 1 or 2, take a break. That kind of thing. So I feel like I'm definitely going to finish this. Maybe even with the special P word. Yeah.
So I'm somewhere between 90 minutes to 120 minutes in, so not very far at all. But all I've done is... So here's my proper first impressions, because I am actually only in the first section of the game. The prologue section, not very good. Straight away, I was like, this is going for too long. I don't know. And I know this is a thing that lots of games do, but it's worth pointing out every time a game does it, which is just that first bit where it's introducing other characters and setting everything up, and I'm just like, I don't know. This seems to be going for too long. I think my bigger problem is that you go for this section at the start, the game starts with this battle, and that's cool.
Yeah.
And then Jin nearly dies, and he gets saved by this woman, and I'm like, okay, cool. Here things go. But then the second part after that, and look, I'm spoiling I'm literally spoiling the prologue of the game. Yeah. You're listening to a PlayStation podcast. The game's been out since Friday.
So 5 days.
It's nearly a week. At this stage, if I can't discuss the prologue of the game on this podcast, I'm sorry. We're setting the bar at least being able to spoil the prologue. And then what happens is you go save your uncle, who's been captured by the Khan.
Kublai Khan or something.
He says he's the cousin of Genghis at the start.
No, he's the grandson of Genghis.
He's the what? Grandson of Genghis?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Because I heard him
not
say
long
Genghis
after Genghis Khan passed away. So there's kind of a power struggle thing happening within the Mongols.
Yeah, because I was wondering how they were going to tie it in, and then early in the game he's like, whatever, grandson of Genghis or whatever. I was like, okay, so that's how we're throwing the big man's name into this game.
Yeah.
So then you go to his place, and I thought all of that was too much. I feel like I would have preferred them to have just set him up as the big villain, and then the woman saves you, and then we go to do what you want now, the game begins. I just feel like that second section, and I know why it's there, is because they're doing the whole thing where they introduce some combat mechanics there, the standoff as you go into that place for the first time. They set up the stuff with Jin not wanting to break the samurai code there as well, because the what's the woman's name? I can't remember people's names.
Yuko.
Yuna.
I want to say Yuna. Yeah, that.
It was Y. Got it. Yuna. Yeah. So she's like, we'll set off traps and stuff, and he doesn't want to do that. Like, so I understand what's happening, and then when you face the Khan, whatever his name is, again, a very video gamey thing where it's like, I know I'm going to lose the fight straight away because I just know that's how video games work. And then I know the whole thing is like, oh, you lose now, but then you fight him at the end of the game and you're powerful and then you beat him and blah, 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 blah. Like I'm kind of presuming the typical video game path. But I just felt like that whole section went for too long. So that's my big negative straight away. Of course, by the time I reach the end of the game, I probably won't be thinking about this as much. But
yes,
as I said,
it does open slow, yeah. But I feel like that story beat is important. It's very much a like samurai trope, I believe. So
yeah. Like, but I just feel like they could have condensed it somehow. Like I don't know. It feels weird. It feels like I'm starting the game and then you're still in the tutorial, but I felt like I was actually into the actual game. But then I'm like, no, okay. But then once you get into the actual game, the way it does the credits, really cool. Like going into that field and then the credits pop up. That's really awesome. And then as soon as we got to that part, I haven't done any story mission since. All I did was just go. All I've been doing is fucking question mark. That's all I've done. I think I've done.
You've just been getting all the hidden stuff. You haven't been doing any missions.
I did a side mission. I haven't gone and seen Yuna because I presume
that's fine.
I went and saw some samurai who didn't show up for the battle.
The archer dude.
Yeah, I did his mission, so I got my bow and arrow or whatever.
I mean, that's the main mission.
Is it? Are they main missions or side missions? I don't know. I
it's
assume
like
Yuna was.
You've got like Jin's main story arc, which are like the primary missions that you need to complete to progress the story, and then you've got Tails, which are like all the side missions, that kind of thing. Okay. Which are very much they are kind of repetitive. They're like go track somebody and fight them, and then come back, or go fetch something and come back after killing somebody. But they're short. And they've just done it in a cool style that makes it like easy to digest and do one after the other.
And I think now I'm at the stage where unless I literally just decide to head off in one direction looking for stuff, there's no more question marks on my map in the area I'm in, so I have to go do that Yuna mission now, I suppose. I think I'll probably continue playing the game this way for the time being because solely of the fact that I didn't get around to starting the game so late. I'm not in a rush to finish it. I am going to write a review still because I don't know if anyone wants to know what score I give it. I don't know if I can.
Sometimes sense of obligation, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. My code
and
is
legal obligation.
Yes, my code is provided by PlayStation. Broker, take all my opinions. So I will write a review for it. But also, I'm not going to rush. I feel like if I'd been playing prior to release, like say I got the code like 5 days before release or something like that, I probably would have just done a few side things to experiment, but then made sure I main pathed it to get the game done. But since I'm not in a rush and I like playing checkboxy type games when I'm enjoying them, like I enjoy my Assassin's Creeds and just Ubisoft checkboxy type shit, which honestly, I know I said in the lead up to this release, I didn't get why people kept comparing it to Assassin's Creed, and I still stand by that to a degree. The thing that is obviously most inspired by Assassin's Creed for this game is its world and like the checkboxy sort of nature of what you're kind of doing. Even though it's not your typical Ubisoft stuff, it still just obviously feels like it's Assassin's Creed inspired. I still don't think the combat is even close to being Assassin's Creed.
It's pretty in depth.
Yeah.
They use every single button on this controller. I don't know if you probably haven't gone to that point yet, but a bunch of different combinations of things. You use the touchpad 5 different ways. It's dense, the combat system.
So yeah, my thoughts on the combat so far are, it's I would say you can't button mash on Are you playing on normal or are you playing on easy?
I'm playing on normal.
Okay, yeah. So I would say you can't button mash on normal, but I would suspect you could probably button mash on easy difficulty. Like I tried to button mash early in the game for just 3 enemies and just like see if I could just kind of headbutt my way through them, and I died. So I was like, okay, you actually do have to, you know, you can't just do that and sort of auto win. Maybe you can later in the game if you get some upgrades and whatever, but
no, the enemies get tougher. I will say I'm pretty much at the point where I feel like I've unlocked a lot of stuff, like all the stances, and I'm starting to. You can unlock every single thing, I think, in the game. Like you can fill out the entire tree, which I think was something we weren't sure was going to be a thing we go in with, or thought, are you going to have to choose samurai? Are you going to have to choose ghost? But yeah, it definitely feels like it's going to be a connection. It's going to be a combination of both, which makes sense story-wise.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the only thing I have to complain about the combat so far is I kind of wish it. I know because it's a weird comparison, mate. Because I don't think the games are at all alike. But the Sekiro combat layout, where it has the attack buttons on like R1 and your block was L1, and that just kind of felt more comfortable. I feel like I kind of wish, and maybe I could manually change all this, but I can't be bothered. Because I'll just play with the default. I'll get used to it. I'm sure over in the next hour or whatever. I continue playing.
You should. You barely played Sekiro at all.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. But at the moment, my first thing was like it's just kind of weird. L1 block, square was attack, and then you got triangle, heavy attack or whatever. I kind of wish like your normal attack was R1 or something. What's R1 used for in the game anyway? Nothing.
Quick.
What?
You get like quick throwables later in the game.
Okay, but yeah, I don't know. It's weird. Anyway, what was the other thing I was going to say about the? What was the thing you just said? Something you just said just before. I was going to say something. I can't remember what the hell he said. Combat something.
Every button.
Touchpad. Fuck, I can't remember now. Hey, don't even know.
Yeah.
Yeah. The ghost. That was it. The ghost and
ghost
stuff. Yeah.
Ghost
so
samurai.
on that, I definitely see it being sort of weird so far that the couple times it's just had me answer any sort of conversation choice or whatever of anything. I'm like, none of this matters. So why even have it? And B,
it's so you can have your own unique story.
Yeah, I know, but at the same time, if you're not going to actually make it matter, just fucking tell a story. Like, just tell the story, you know. I know this, you know, you bring in things, it's like The Last of Us Part 2 tells a story, then you got other games that want it to be your story, like Fallout and whatever. I'm like, I feel like this is a game that could have just been better served as, this is the fucking story. We're not giving you choices. I mean,
it's only like really, it's only tiny things like, hey, explain this thing instead of this thing.
No, but it's just like, for instance, like pick your horse's name. I'm like, that's cool. That's a cool little subtle detail to allow you to kind of make it feel more like you had a choice in something. But I mean more the moments where it's very obviously handing you two conversation choices that are like, pick which one is like the proper samurai code or the more like non-samurai code one. And then you pick one and then they'll be like, yeah, that's the way, or pick the other, and it's like, but it doesn't make any difference. And I guess that's...
I don't think it really does that, but yeah.
It's done it like twice so far.
I mean, it's more of a
2 hours.
Honorable or a dickish answer, generally.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't make any difference. They're only making you pick one, so if you pick the non-samurai one, the character will be like, no. Or Jin will be like, no, that's not the proper way, or some shit. And that's kind of the same for... It's kind of weird that... It is kind of weird that the game lets you do stealth if you want to, but then tells you that it's bad for like, that's the non-samurai way. So I'm not even stealthing. Like I went to the first outpost thing or whatever I discovered with a bunch of people. I was gonna stealth in. Like I kind of looked up, like, yeah, enemy over there, cool. Like I was like, I could sneak in. But then straight away, the game's kind of like, oh, no, this isn't the proper samurai way or whatever. So I'm like, I ain't doing that anymore. So the next one I found, I just walk in, stand off, if I can do what I want to do. I know, because it just feels weird. Like, it feels like
maybe
the game
it's supposed to.
I don't know, I suppose, but it's just
Games working its things on you.
maybe.
So then, come back to me when you do that next mission.
Yeah, well, yeah, yeah, I suppose early impressions, but so far I just feel like the samurai versus ghost stuff is very heavy-handed in the first couple hours. Is the way I'd describe it. Like, there's been several conversations that have felt very heavy-handed.
Well, no, it makes sense within the context of the story that it's like a really religious person and you're trying to corrupt them a little bit.
Yeah, I suppose.
Like, you have to do certain things a certain way. It's like they'll be reluctant, but then they'll go super into it.
Yeah. Well, I know they're going to go into it eventually because I've seen a video game trailer. So, like, you know.
I mean, you could theoretically play the entire thing without doing any ghost stuff.
Can you? Do you reckon?
Actually,
you sure?
no,
You haven't finished
that
it yet,
one
though,
mission. Obviously, that one mission you need to, but I imagine a lot of this game you could do without.
Well,
I don't know if it would affect the story that much. Like, I feel like.
How about in Act 3? It just makes you be full ghost.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, maybe. I doubt it, though. I reckon it'll just be like a combination of both. So.
All right. Well, we'll be doing a spoiler cast when we've finished it, and we'll discuss our final thoughts when we've finished it. If that's next week or the week after or whatever, I don't know. Find out soon. That is Ghost of
Beautiful
Tsushima.
as well.
Yeah, very, 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 very pretty. Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't say it's like visually super impressive, but the style of it.
No,
is
it's
like,
art style. It's just art direction.
It's
It's like they've picked, hey, let's do the most on your nose kind of samurai film look stuff. Like the constant wind and the flowers and the leaves and all that stuff. And then let's just fucking nail that shit.
Everything else doesn't really matter.
No.
Like sometimes the little fox thing, its feet like clip through the world and that kind of stuff, but
and the facial
really
animation
matter.
is hit and miss. So
it's not super impressive.
No. But
I'm sure it's even worse coming off of Last of Us. But my timeline is flooded with Ghost of Tsushima pictures and
that's the other thing I was going to quickly
videos.
shout out. I think this game has the best photo mode so far. Because maybe I would have got further in the game if I haven't wasted already decent amount of time.
So easy.
Yeah.
And so easy because also it's the right analog button.
Yeah.
Whereas the call your horse is the left analog button. So I keep getting mixed up and I'm like, I can take a photo.
I think that the thing that makes it special is definitely the that I would call it like the GIF stuff you can do, I guess. Like the fact that it leaves stuff animated in the background and you can adjust the rain and the wind and the weather and all that sort of stuff. That kind of puts it a step above other things. I was thinking when I was doing, like I was taking this shot last night and I was thinking at the time, because I adjusted everything. Like I adjusted where the wind was coming, the rain, all these sorts of things. I'm like, it takes away from other games where like in a Horizon or Death Stranding or, any of these other pretty games, Last of Us, whatever, like, or particularly open world type things like Death Stranding or Horizon, if you've captured a really special moment at a just particularly special moment in time with the weather or time or day or something, and you kind of capture that special shot, it kind of stands out more than when I guess you can have free reign to change those things. I'm not saying one's better than the other, but it does, like, apples and oranges. It's just interesting point of discussion, I guess, for people who get hardcore into video game photography.
I don't know. Yeah, it just depends if you like things natural or you like things edited. Photoshop to death.
I guess. But I have definitely captured, I think, 2 or 3 moments where I just, and it's like just the rain, like you got these cool moments, these cool shots. I've just let it sit there for like a couple minutes and then like save the video. Because then I'm like, later if I want to turn that to something, I can put it on my PC and like turn it into a continuous loop. And that's like a cool screensaver, something, I don't know. Like, cool.
Spoilers, PS5 feature, GIFs. GIF maker.
Yeah. that is definitely something that's missing. Like, they let you do it. They let you save the video, but you can't turn it into a GIF to post to Twitter. So they kind of missing that one last step. Yeah. So definitely add that. If Sony, if you're listening, you want to sneak something into the PS5. All right, so talking about Sucker Punch's latest game, let's talk about a game that was cancelled. So this demo video thing got leaked online over the last 24 hours of recording for The Prophecy, which is apparently one of a couple of projects that Sucker Punch were kicking around and working on prior to eventually settling on Ghost of Tsushima. They previously talked about in the interview how they had messed around with a pirate game and a medieval game. So I think this one falls into the medieval game because that's what it looks like. But
medieval
time,
as in the time period, not medieval, the mediocre game.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Because this is what, you got people in 9. It's kind of confusing. So it's 10 minutes of gameplay. You've got this main character who at the start of the video is looking for something in this dig site. And then he gets chased around town by all these people in knights, I guess, armor and stuff. It doesn't look like you can really do big 1v3 combat. There's a time where he does 1v1 combat, and that kind of looks like Ghost of Tsushima, sort of you can see the influences of
kind of
that this to there. The camera seems as close as it is in Ghost, and it doesn't seem to feature any sort of lock on or anything like that, which this game has. And then there are some stealth elements, which I guess you can see sort of similar things from that in it. But ultimately, it's 10-minute video. He gets chased around this town, ends up climbing on rooftops, falls through a ceiling after he takes an arrow to the knee. Then he talks to this dude, gets chased around some more. He throws this powder stuff that he can then set people on light with. It's very confusing. It does seem like it's set during a medieval period, but at the same time, it had me wondering if this character was a time travel or something weird. It was just very odd. And if I'd watched this at a PlayStation event or something, I would have just been left. I wouldn't say I would have left excited for this. This gameplay demo, and of course, we're looking at something that's probably 4, 5, 6 years old at this stage. But again, it doesn't seem to have any sort of A factor about it, which is probably why they ended up cancelling it and moving on to something else. But it's definitely interesting because it is a full demo that probably would have been shown at a Sony event. It's not a rough gameplay or a CGI trailer or anything. This is a fully voice acted, animated, at least this section of the game is full on. So, but it was the project that ended up cancelling. And I don't know if they went to the pirate thing after this, or the pirate thing was before this, and then maybe they went from this to the pirates and then Ghost, or from this straight to Ghost, and the pirate thing was before this, and the pirate thing never actually got to this stage. But it's definitely behind the curtain type look at what was going on at Sucker Punch, and it's kind of interesting, even if the demo doesn't look super interesting. What do you think of the Prophecy?
I think if they'd made this one, the Assassin's Creed comparisons would have been even more apt. Or it even looks a bit like Dishonored and that kind of world. So yeah, I mean, you can see bits and pieces that they've obviously used for Ghost. There's a section where he's crawling underneath a building. That's very much a thing in first person view. It is almost identical. Like him squeezing through different fences and that kind of stuff. That's in Ghost and that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, it's not crazy to think that this could have been a game that Sucker Punch puts out. You could see, based on what we saw from Ghost of Tsushima, that this would have been something. But yeah, I think just maybe marketing wise, and it didn't make sense to do something so similar to, even more similar to a lot of the other competition out there, even if they did have a cool story idea or something.
I think the number one thing I take away from this in collaboration with obviously playing Ghost now finally. But it's kind of weird that Sucker Punch was obviously sort of trying to chase that Assassin's Creed trail, you know, like obviously they didn't set out to like, let's do something exactly the same as Assassin's Creed, but it seems they were trying to take that Assassin's Creed type formula, I guess, without the current day element and do something like their own take on it.
It's hard not to fall into that trap, I think, with open world game, unless you're doing like a third person or first person shooter. If you're doing a melee based open world, then you're always going to draw comparisons to Assassin's Creed, whether you like it or not, because obviously that is the big game in that genre.
I guess so. Like, this definitely looks way more, as you said, way more inspired by Assassin's Creed than Ghost does now. But if this was like the starting point and then they eventually got to Ghost, it just makes me wonder what was the pitch in the developer room that eventually led them to this, that eventually got them to Ghost. You know, like they've come off doing Infamous, which is an open world. I know you're like, you can't make an open world game without it seeming like Assassin's Creed, but their last open world game did not seem like Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, well, you can't. Obviously, Infamous is so completely different, so yeah, I get it, but there's only so many things you can do in the genre.
I know, but
that we can think of, yeah.
It's just interesting to go from creating such a unique thing like the Infamous franchise that stands apart. You know, like you can't be like, the only game that people ever say is like Infamous, even though it's not anything like it, was Prototype. Because Infamous and Prototype 1 came out, I think, within the same year, and they both were like open world superhero type things, but nothing alike. Otherwise, there's no comparison to the Infamous franchise. And then they've gone from Infamous, and I'm not saying this is shit on Ghost. I'm just saying they've gone from such a unique franchise to something that at least people are able to like slightly go, this is kind of like that other thing. Whereas their previous franchise that no one could ever go, this is kind of like that. So I just wonder why they were like, did they set out to try and make something that was more appealing to mass audience, and that's how they ended up with the Prophecy, and then they ended up with Ghost and whatever else. I don't know.
I think it's just a story. I would think it was a narrative choice, as whatever story they wanted to tell. Just
what's the connection between the medieval game, the pirate game, and the samurai game? Like, if they're the three different settings, I guess it has to be the combat, maybe.
And the worlds, yeah. But
other than that,
I mean, it's very similar to what they've done before, yeah.
Yeah, because
they're like period pieces.
Maybe in the Prophecy demo, they do show the guy fighting once with a sword of some sort, and that combat kind of seemed like similar to Ghost. Sort of, not obviously the same.
Not really.
Well, you can see similar sort of.
There was an assassin-esque bit that is kind of like Ghost, but to say the combat is like Ghost based on this tiny bit of footage is a bit harsh.
Well, I'm just saying, based on the short amount I saw, I could see I could see you holding similar sorts of buttons and whatever else in the thing here, but by the time they get to Ghost, obviously they're probably. I'm just intrigued. Like, what is the, you know, like, I guess if the pirate game, if it is the combat, then the pirate game, obviously you could picture sort of the same sort of combat with a. And obviously different, but similar sort of, because obviously a big pirate cutlass is going to swing differently to a katana, right? But
yes,
but I mean, from a design standpoint, designing a combat around like the blocking and the heavy and light attack and the dodging and that sort of stuff, but with a different spin on it if you're a pirate compared to a samurai, like maybe that was the connecting factor. But as a swordplay, yeah. As a developer, they do like time periods, I guess you could say, if you want to like swing it back to the Sly Cooper games, considering they had time travel.
Did they?
Time travel, Sly Cooper.
Was that Sucker Punch? That was only the fourth one, right?
No, they did the OGs. The fourth one was I can't remember. I cannot remember.
It was somebody else.
It was someone else. It was not the originals though. It was not the OGs. Anyway, so that's you can find the link to the Prophecy demo if you'd like to give it a look for yourself in the show descriptions, of course.
Hopefully we find out the story about that eventually.
Well, yeah. It's
Come on, Danny. Or do I?
Someone do it. I think the problem is that sometimes,
or release a Raising Gin documentary.
Yeah. I think sometimes the thing with, I guess, developers, they either don't want to talk about it because maybe it's just a period they don't like discussing, or they're like, that's a cool idea that we might return to, so we don't want to talk about it and like give away any ideas about the story or characters or anything like that. So it could like sit under both of those or none of those. We'll find out. Let's move into the next gen though. So we got this Spider-Man detail that the Spider-Man Miles Morales game is going to feature 4K/60 FPS performance mode, is what Insomniac tweeted out. They wrote, swing through the city like never before on PS5 with an optional 4K/60 FPS performance mode. And IGN in the article, because I was confused when I saw this tweet, I was like, what does that mean? If 4K, because straight away my mind was like, is it 4K or 60? Or is it 4K and 60 is the performance mode? And if that's the performance mode, what's the non-performance mode? I was very confused, but I think IGN's article helped me like, oh, that actually makes sense. They wrote, with 4K 60 FPS coming as an optional mode, it seems sensible to presume that some graphical sacrifices will be made from the standard mode in order to enable this boosted performance. With next gen placing emphasis on resource intensive tech like ray tracing, it may be that performance mode turns these graphical effects off to free up power to divert that into frame rate. And that kind of makes more sense to me. So, because honestly, and I know we're kind of, I'll say this a million times as we lead up to the PS5 for people who don't understand, hitting 4K 60 is still quite a feat, even for super powered PCs. So the fact that they tweeted out that that's the performance mode is very like, what? That's confusing. Now I've seen people in the comments who don't understand anything and a bunch of babies crying that they reckon it should hit 4K 60 in the quality mode, right? And to them, I say, shut the fuck up.
To them, I say, you're not going to notice.
I do. It does make me wonder because I guess 4K 60 performance mode may mean 4K 30, but with ray tracing, I guess, as the quality mode. Or maybe you can even have a third option of like 1080, 120 frames, ray tracing, something like that. Maybe they'll have more options. You don't get to say because you're over there on your base PlayStation with your fucking SD TV. On PS4 Pros,
HD TV.
Yeah, on PS4 Pros at the moment, you only get two modes most games have. Like for instance, Ghost has a performance and a quality mode, as most PlayStation exclusives on Pros have had for some time now. And the big difference there is quality mode usually runs somewhere between at least 30, maybe a bit above, but it's definitely not hitting 60. And quality mode, performance mode on most of these games will dip the quality somewhat so you can hit that 60 frames per second. And I know most people for games like Ghost and even God of War opted for the performance mode because obviously the combat with the blocking and these sorts of things, they preferred the frames, which I think is a good call. I think if I was playing the game on hard, I would probably want the frames, especially if you needed to do a lot more parrying, because it'll just make being able to parry a lot easier. But I'm still opting for the prettier things over the more frames at the moment. Spider-Man's a hard one for me to pick. Like if honestly, if the option is like 4K 60 or 4K 30 with ray tracing, I don't know. Like it's a hard pick because when you're flying around that city so fast, if you can get the more frames is actually going to be a huge. You're going to feel the difference in a game that runs fast. It's no different than racing games. More frames, the better. Shooting games, more frames, the better. Now, Ash is over here still like, well, Dylan, no one can know the difference. But one day, this year, Ash, this fucking year, you're going to buy a PS5. You're going to come home. You're going to plug it in. And you're going to
HD
play,
TV.
You're going to plug in. You're going to play around with these fucking settings, and I'm going to pick the perfect game for you.
Just going to leave whatever.
No,
whatever the developer has set the standard. That's what I'm setting.
I hate everything that you're saying about. One day between me and Kieran, we're going to help you understand things better. You've got a better laptop now. We can just. Fuck, I can't. Jesus Christ. Bugsnax, love it. Anyway, there's a single out for it. I brought it. If you want to buy it, I'm just doing it before it sells out. This is more a PSA than a news story. I hope it's still available. It still says pre-order on the website. So im8bit.com. They got a Bugsnax vinyl, 7-inch vinyl for the smash hit single. It's Bugsnax by Kiro Benito. I pre-ordered the fuck out of that. Hey.
Surprising. There's the number of lots of verses.
More
than I was expecting.
In the whole song.
Yeah.
I mean, did you listen to it? Like the trailer was only up. It was only like a quarter of the song.
Yeah.
Got this much more song. It even has a rap breakdown, Ash.
Live performance on Summer Games Fest.
Live, yeah. It was live. That was
Should have been debut of the music video.
It was great. I love it.
That's what it was. It was great.
That music video, I gotta be honest, this is one of those things where it's like, yes, they're all in their own houses because of COVID. However, given the indie nature of Kiro Benito and the overall just silly theme of the song, the way they edited it together kind of just works as a music video. Bugsnax, it's blowing up. Love it. Buy that vinyl. It's apparently got scratch and sniff. Love that shit.
Everybody, listen to it on Spotify. Get it up to number 1. So everybody has to listen to Bugsnax.
I mean, you know what
it plays on like radio stations that use Spotify to put their
What about this?
Is Triple J just still doing their thing where they'll play any song?
Yeah, mate. That's good. That's a good point, actually. Yeah, maybe I should look into that. That's good. Very good point. So this is, I think, this is the only thing, as far as I can tell, that I've blown unnecessary money on this year. Because for most of the year, I've been trying to be pretty good with not spending money on junk. But this is the one time I didn't even think twice. I was like, pre-order. I usually don't. As many cool things that I see come out of im8bit and limited run games and all these places, because the postage usually just absolutely kills any incentive to buy anything. You could be like, oh, it's $30, I'm willing to pay, that's probably like $45, but then the postage is like as much as the fucking thing, and I'm like, oh my god. Okay. But blew my load on this one. And then earlier in the week, we got our first look at the DualSense controller, the PS5's controller. Geoff Keighley did a full-on reveal and stream for it, where he showed off and gave his thoughts on the controller, and then he played Astro's Playroom demo. Well, he played a section of it to kind of show off several things about
Geoff
the
demo.
DualSense. Yeah, the Geoff demo. So he kind of showed off the. It's hard because he's showing off it more. He's doing his best as he can to explain something that's all about feeling. So he's explaining how the haptic feedback is working, and he's feeling that he's pulling down the controller when he's playing the spring character, and he's like you can feel it, the tension in the R2 and L2 buttons here. But at one stage he puts the controller up to the microphone and does, as he calls it, PSMR, because he was trying to show how the ice sounds were coming through the controller. I mean, the current controller does that, but sure. And then he does that for like the first 10 minutes. Then he has a 10-minute talk with one of the PlayStation dev people. I can't remember the person's name. But for the most part, I didn't start to watch this because I didn't think it was going to be that eventful. And I will say that it probably wasn't that eventful. Maybe if you haven't been paying a lot of attention and reading up on everything PlayStation, you would have got more out of this. However, I would like to think I'm pretty up to date, And most of what they talk about in this is what we already know. The biggest thing we got out of this was a better look at the Astro's Playroom demo, which looks pretty cool. Hopefully I'll have an easy platinum. That'll be great. But obviously that demo is being built to show off the different functions of the controller and the PlayStation itself, which is cool. But again, there's only so much you can do to explain a controller that's all of its updated features are about feeling it in your own hands. So I don't blame Geoff. That's just simply the way it, the way the cookie crumbles, I guess. How did you watch much of this? What are your thoughts?
No, I watched a little bit. I guess most interesting is like to see it right next to a PS4 controller. I don't think we've seen like a side by side. But yeah, other than that, pretty much what we've kind of read up and discussed on this podcast in the past. Astrobot Playroom looks cool though. Even though it's kind of like, it just looks like more Astrobot. So
yeah, it's
except not in VR. So
not in VR, yeah. And there's some funny things like they've got lots of throwbacks and stuff to the previous Astrobot or PlayStation demos and stuff in it, which looks fun. Playroom stuff. So that's cool. Again, it's just like it all sounds so cool, but either people aren't explaining it in the right way to me to get like super excited, or I'm just, because the way my brain's tuned, I'm just kind of want to feel it with my hands. But as much as I keep hearing people say about the fucking, and he says the exact same example again, like, oh, it's like when you pull a bow and arrow, there's real tension in here. I'm like, okay.
Haptic, yeah.
But is there really, like, how much is there? Like, I know everyone keeps saying that, but I know it's one thing to say that, and then I'm going to be really disappointed if I pick up the controller and it's like, oh, yeah, there's totally tension here. People, I don't know if people are overselling it.
Oh, my God. It really feels like I'm holding a bow.
Yeah, well, it really feels like I'm holding it.
Yes, it's disappointing that nobody's going to be able to touch it until I pick up PS5.
Yeah, and that is honestly one of the biggest disappointments of this year, the fact that PAX had to be cancelled the year that a new video game console's kind of coming out. That is sad.
It's on the list.
I mean, I'm sure there's more important things, but
like people dying.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying one of the most disappointing things for me personally. Jesus. I'm not saying it's more important. I'm just saying, for me personally, it's kind of disappointing that PAX was cancelled because I didn't get to touch a PS5 DualSense earlier. Unless PlayStation wants to send me one. They're sending Geoff one. I consider myself to be Australia's Geoff Keighley, so you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Did they
Look
give
forward to the Oceania Game Awards later this year.
Yeah, fuck it, let's do it.
Oceania's Game Awards.
Sure. Rock and roll. Someone's got to do something. Nate, no! That's right. After last week, where we said, oh no, this is stupid. Don't film the fucking movie.
Oh, look at his hair.
This is silly. Look at Tom Holland's hair. And then I think like a day or two later, he literally posts on his Instagram, and by him I mean Tom Holland, posts on his Instagram a picture of his chair with the word Nate. So day one, hashtag
to be
Uncharted
fair,
is what he wrote.
They could have just sent him the chair.
Yes, but he did write day one, hashtag Uncharted, which I think implies in movie talk that he's day one filming of the film.
Don't know. Maybe they're doing the entire film over Zoom.
Maybe. I'd watch it. I wouldn't. I would, but I wouldn't want to.
It's just an hour play of Nate and Sully trying to solve and doing research before they go find something.
I mean, it sounds like the TV show spin-off, but yeah, sure. I also want to point out, so in the comment section of this, of his Instagram, Boss Logic is the top comment, and he wrote, better Nate than never. Yeah, got it. So
that deserves a like.
They're actually filming this movie. So for all of our memeing and jokes that this was never actually going to happen, and it probably shouldn't happen at this stage, there's no more messing around. The Uncharted movie is actually filming. I think they're filming it like fucking New Zealand or somewhere. I don't know. I think I read the other day they were filming it somewhere like not in America anyway. Definitely not there. So yeah, they're filming it and they're still targeting that mid 2021 release date, which in other movie news, we'll talk about on What Do You Want to Watch Our Movie and TV podcast, but also could be related to this. They've gave up on Tenet, but they're still filming more movies, expecting cinemas to actually ever open in America. I don't think they're ever going to actually open again. So they're filming this Uncharted movie only for the only way you'll be able to watch it is to pirate it next year.
No, they'll have to pay $40 for the band.
The band?
$40 on demand.
Oh, $40 on demand. I was like, the band? What band?
Yeah, you have to hire a band and then you can watch the movie.
Yeah. So that's. Will there be more Uncharted updates? Will there be more leaked set pictures? Stay tuned to the only podcast that's giving you the Uncharted news that you probably are sick of hearing. And that'll do it for this week's episode of Platinum Explosion. You can follow us on Twitter by heading to explosionnetwork.com/Twitter. You can suggest topics or send in questions for the show by emailing mail@explosionnetwork.com with the subject line Platinum Explosion. And until next week, remember that every trophy counts.
すべてのトロフィーがカウントされます。
I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I'm doing the outro and it looks like you're fucking searching something on your computer. I'm like, what are you Googling right now?
No.
But it's...
すべてのトロフィーがカウントされます。
What's it?
Every trophy counts.
Ah, very good. Very good. Hey, don't forget you can subscribe to the show wherever you're currently listening, and you can drop a review if you can. Find more great shows like this and more content over at explosionnetwork.com, and please consider supporting us for as little as $1 over on our Ko-fi page by heading to explosionnetwork.com/support. Thanks for listening.